Hello and welcome to a special edition of the In the Money Players podcast. This is our Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga recap, our show for Monday, June 10th. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatel, back from Saratoga and down in the Brooklyn Bunker. We're going to do that thing where we do a simulcast. Sometimes our content is just on YouTube. Sometimes it's just on audio. This one is going to go out on both. And with that in mind, we'll thank everybody out there for helping us on YouTube to get over 9,000 subscribers. Very happy for that, but we're not done yet, folks. The next target, 10,000. Go ahead, sign up to receive notifications and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll help us get there. We appreciate you. It was great walking around Saratoga and having so many people come up and say, hey, PTF, great to see you. And I subscribe. They know the way to my heart. Very, very good stuff. Joining me for this first segment on the show is the usual co-host. He has left Saratoga as well. He is down on the planet Texas. He's finishing his lunch. He's Jonathan Kinchin. What's up, JK?
Yeah, look, I left. I had to fly to Texas this morning, which is Monday morning. So I got off of air. The last race was at 6:48. I got off air at 7:01. I had Joe Vanina pull into the main gate and turn the car around so that we didn't get stuck in traffic. I sprinted after I got off of air. Greg Wolf wasn't even done doing his rollout, and I was in the car heading down 87 back to Manhattan before getting up this morning to fly to Austin.
Pretty funny. Let's get into this Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga. First, let's start with just a general question. What did you think of this big race being up there? There was a lot of anticipation. There was a lot of excitement. There were some people questioning it. Where did you land on the whole Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga?
So often in life, things get hyped up. You go to them, and you wake up, you're like, oh, God, that was too much. That wasn't even, it's just stupid. That was boring. I thought it lived up to the hype and more. I thought it was outstanding. Now, look, I didn't really get to consume it fully as a fan. I'm just so busy, but I did watch a lot of people consume it. I saw as much as I could, and it looked to be tremendous. I thought it was outstanding. And I think that the handle numbers that took place really kind of illustrate that.
Between the handle numbers and my general understanding of New York City construction projects, it would not surprise me one bit, JK, if rather than have one extra year up at Saratoga of this Belmont Stakes Racing Festival, if there's some world in which they decide it's better for everybody involved for it to go on another year. I was out in the crowd for the whole thing, and I just thought it was fantastic. You know, we were at the seats mainly in the top of the stretch, but I was in the clubhouse. I liked the renovations generally. Thought the team at Naira did an excellent job. And you know what? Also, the weather, which was predicted to be so rotten, I think realistically, we got away with about as good weather as we could as far as that goes. I was a big fan. I agree. We lived up to the hype. Let's start our analysis by taking a look at the big race itself, showing a view here from DRF Formulator of the Beyer Speed Figure chart view. You can see there the horse that got the job done, which you already knew, unless you've been living under a rock. Dornoch was successful. Mindframe, a horse that both you and I respected a lot, getting into second, and our old friend Sierra Leone clocking in third in the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. What for you was the headline here?
I mean, obviously the headline has to go to Dornoch winning, right? And I think that, I was very pleased with Jason Worth's speech. You know, he owned 10% of the horse. I was very pleased with his speech that he gave on Fox, and he also gave in the press conference where he continued to say that, racing is the best, most underrated sport out there. And I think when other people, fans of other sports, hear someone that they were a fan of say that, I think it's great publicity for us. And obviously that helps. So I was happy for them in that regard, Randy Hill as well. But, I think all three winners of these Triple Crown races were fortunate in doing so. And I think when looking at the chart, I don't really have a lot to say. I think it just kind of is what it is. Dornoch was forward. He got a nice trip. Mindframe was probably best if he doesn't take a right-hand turn when Irad catches him the second time with the left-handed stick. Sierra Leone is doing what Sierra Leone does, which is trying to turn left instead of running straight, and eventually costing him some ground. And I do think the racetrack probably wasn't friendly to him, but I don't think he was winning regardless of the racetrack based on the way the other two horses ran. Honor Marie I think is going to be a pluggy horse. It's going to always run like third and fourth in these types of races. Resilience probably wants to go a little bit shorter. I mean, Mystic Dan, I think he is who I thought he was, which is a good horse that won the Kentucky Derby, but not talented enough to overcome adversity, or to overcome a not ideal situation for him. Sees the gray. I think last time was the time. There's not a whole lot to grab out of this, right? I mean, I think that this Triple Crown left us a little bit empty on who's the best 3-year-old. I mean, I guess it's Mystic Dan at this point. Who would if you had to like give away the trophy from the place with the other letters? I suppose it would be Mystic Dan at this point, but that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. So I think the rest of the summer is gonna say a lot about this division.
And there's a lot to happen between now and then. But yeah, you're right. We did another video on the top 5. We're going to pop the audio later in the podcast if you're listening on that side. But if you think about it in terms of year-end awards, the little bit of extra credit that the Derby gets, finishing in the money in 2 races, you can really make a Mystic Dan case. I mean, yeah, if the season ended today, he would be the 3-year-old champion. Couple of points, though, I want to follow up on. You left a little bit of meat on the bone. You mentioned the racetrack casually. We talked off air. We're doing this very early. We don't have racingflow.com numbers, haven't really touched base with any of our pro punter friends. I thought the track was kind to speed plus, I'd say. It wasn't a bias to me where, oh my God, it was absolutely dictating the outcome of races, but I think it did play a factor in what we saw in the Belmont Stakes itself, where I did feel like Sierra Leone was a little up against it. Doubtless he did what you said. He still lugged new equipment and all a little bit, but I think that between the way the pace played out there with it being honest but not crazy and sort of tempering a little bit in the latter half of the race and the way the track was playing, I did think it gave him a little bit of a disadvantage. Where are you with how the track was playing for this Belmont Stakes?
You know, I'm not one to get overly throwing around bias things without significant proof, right? And I think the main thing that I need is for bad horses to win races based on where they were on the racetrack, or at least to start to feel that way. General Partner was always winning the first race. Subrogate and Looms Boldly, nice horses that were forward. I don't have a problem there. Randomized and Idiomatic, fine. Baby Yoda ran like a 197 buyer one time at Saratoga on the front end. So I didn't necessarily have a problem with his run. Krupe did come from way out of it, right? Came from out of it at 5-2 and won. So there's no bias hurting there. Bookham Dano came from off of it, did have a lot of pace to close into, but did come from off of it. You know, he's not some sort of like over the top superstar that he's supposed to overcome some crazy speed bias. National Treasure won the damn Pegasus and the Preakness. So why is it weird that Bob Baffert came in and went wire to wire grade 1 in New York? I don't know. I mean, sure, maybe all dirt racing is favors horses that are forward. So I think it was more that than anything else.
Mind frame. I made this point in the other video, but I'll make it quickly here as well. And for the podcast, I heard some people say, "Oh, I'm not sure he was ever going by." He was going by. I mean, where I was sitting, sort of top of the stretch, you see all the momentum. On the other video, I said 19 out of 20. I think that's about right. 19 out of 20 times the horse with the momentum that he had. I mean, and not only that, I mean, he did go by. He stuck his head in front, doing what he did, which was to watch this replay. This isn't even 3 or 4 paths. It's 6 or 8 that he ends up drifting by failing to run in a straight line. I do think there was something to the point of the people who said maybe this is too much too soon. Maybe the inexperience tells on him going the 1.25 miles in only his 3rd start. I think that's absolutely fair after the fact. I don't feel bad for ending up using him pretty heavily on the tickets. And I think he might have the best future of all of these horses, just based on the brilliance he showed to date. And to my mind, the excuse that he has here.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, he's the one I want moving forward, for certain, based on that performance. And yeah, I mean, I said before that experience isn't going to matter for him unless experience matters for him, and he got a great trip. And then it just, that one left-handed crop caught him off guard. And I think ultimately that's what cost him.
Let's talk about some of the other performances that really impressed you, JK. I'll just throw it to you completely open. I think I have a suspicion of where you're going to go with this. What were some of the most impressive performances you saw throughout the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, National Treasure was outstanding. I thought White Abario was terrible. There's since been a trainer change back to Safi Joseph, which you don't see that very often. A Breeders' Cup Classic winner being moved back to the original trainer. But I thought National Treasure was sensational, and I look forward to seeing him probably run back in the Whitney. You know, he's got a Preakness under his belt, so there's not going to be any issues or questions about his distance. So I thought he was really good. I thought Torpedo Anna, which we can touch on quickly, was really damn good on Friday, but she's not brilliant yet. I mean, she's running good races and she's running fast numbers, and she's definitely the leader in the clubhouse for 3-year-old champion. And she looks like a horse that maybe in the fall can compete with a Randomized and an Idiomatic. But, you got to be special to start this conversation about running against the boys. I just don't necessarily need her in that regard yet. And then the one that really stands out to me, and I know that turf sprinting in this country gets a little bit kind of overlooked or kind of passed to the side, but Cogburn was sensational. I mean, sensational. 111 Beyer speed figure, if I'm not mistaken, broke the North American track record for 5.5 furlongs. Steve Asmussen saying he never thought he'd ever see a horse run under a minute going 5.5, and he did that. So he was sensational. And those are some of the ones that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean, you hit most of the notes that I was gonna absolutely mention. If you didn't, showing some Beyer speed figures up there, it was a 102 for National Treasure, so nothing that great, nothing to make you think, oh, here's your Breeders' Cup Classic winner, but certainly a game and good performance. Getting back to the bias, funny enough, I feel like I can speak on this. I think the horse that really gave me that idea was how well my namesake Looms Boldly ran. I mean, this was his previous top was an 86, went all the way up to 99. Horse ran great, don't get me wrong, but I did get the sneaking suspicion we might have been carried by the racetrack a little bit. Really glad you mentioned Cogburn. We all made very strong cases for him on the preview show. Matt Kater actually reached out to me afterwards and said he wanted to make that, and we'll do this officially on a show later in the week, but we'll shout out our friends at Adelphi Racing here and say we'll give a preview that Cogburn is going to be the Adelphi Racing performance of the week with that 111 Beyer speed figure. It was an exciting 2 days of racing. Let's pause on the Acorn for a minute, though, Jonathan, because I do think, I mean, you've tipped your hand about how you feel, but I have to say, heading in on this day, I went in thinking, I want to see this Torpedo Anna do it one more time. I thought she might have been a little bit flattered by the racetrack the last time. I was interested in Just FYI to turn the tables, mainly because I liked her last time and wanted to see the form confirmed. Not only was the form confirmed, I mean, this turned into a mockery. I mean, just FYI kind of couldn't have been worse. But that aside, Torpedo Anna getting that 99 Beyer speed figure and getting the job done in scintillating fashion. I can see where Kenny's coming from with these ideas. Given how the racing calendar shakes out, I don't think he needs to be in a hurry to run her against the boys straight away or anything, but it's not the nuttiest idea I've ever heard. And I'll put it this way. It makes a lot more sense after Friday than it did going in.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't care who was in any of these races if Rachel was in there, right? I mean, I run her against, American Pharaoh, whatever. And Justify. But as far as is if this group that we have right now, the Sierra Leones, the Dornochs, the Mystic Dans, the Seize the Grays, if those horses show up in the Travers, yeah, run this filly. But if the mind frame that could be shows up, or the Muth that could be shows up, or the Fierceness that could be shows up, or all three of them show up, run the Alabama, sweetheart. Like that, you don't want. I don't think she wants those horses.
Yeah.
But I do think she wants the ones that won all the Triple Crown races. I think she would beat all of them, but I don't think she wants what could be. I don't think she wants those late summer types like Arrogate. I don't think she wants those horses. So that's kind of the point I'm making.
I think that's fair.
I just think they want to tread lightly there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it was certainly a more visually, now, numbers, we use numbers for a reason, but visually it was a more impressive win in the Acorn than what any of the Colts did in the Triple Crown races. True or false?
Absolutely true. But I do want to say one other thing about the Acorn. And then I do want to talk about the Manhattan.
That was next on my list.
Just FYI, more trainers and riders need to do what they tried to do with her, which is put her on the front end. You have a classy 2-year-old champion. and let her get comfortable on the front end and put the screws to a horse like Torpedo Anna. It didn't work, but I don't think you should be results oriented in that opinion. Like, that was the right move for her, because if she was behind her, she was never going to run by her either. So I like the fact that they tried to do that.
Yeah, I don't mind that idea in terms of we're very critical of riders for being too passive in the history of the In the Money Players podcast. So, right, I don't want to be speaking out of both sides of my mouth and say, oh, the tactics were bad. I just thought the performance was bad. That's where I was going with that. I didn't have an issue. It's not like I was cussing when they decided to go to the lead or anything. You mentioned the Manhattan. It was won by measured time. Charlie Appleby, he'd had some horses run well, but he hadn't had that big, impressive winner at the festival that we're used to from him in the same way. And he'd had some dreadful underperformances. I think of Siskiny back on Thursday in the Gold Cup. There were some questions about the form of the yard coming in. Measured time said, let me take it from here, boss. 104 Beyer speed figure. Very impressive. Race came back fast. I mean, it looks a little odd even to have a race where you have 5 horses who all hit the 100 Beyer speed figure threshold. And I'll pull that up for those of you watching on YouTube as we're chatting, so you can see exactly what I mean. But this was a terrific effort for Measure Time, who I was surprised was as good a price as he was. Maybe that the barn not flying was part of the reason it worked out like that. But very, very good stuff, and fair enough to see Appleby getting his win on the big day. What was it about this race that you wanted to chat about?
Well, there's 2 things about Measure Time. I love when these Europeans come over here. Reminds me of course, I'm going to do this. Highland Reel. When they come out there and they find themselves on the front end, or they find themselves forward, and they got that stamina, they're dangerous racehorses when they come over here like this. And for Measured Time, there's a couple of things. One, he ran a 104 Beyer, I believe, and if I'm not mistaken, that is the fastest turf race so far this year in this country, which is saying a lot. The other thing about Measured Time is, in the post-race interview when Maggie was on horseback with William Buick, he said that this horse was like a monster galloper. And I'm filing that away for the Breeders' Cup, because we so often are trying to identify horses that have a real weapon in their stamina. And if there ends up being a situation where there's not a lot of pace in that race, Charlie Appleby and William Buick, I think, will have a plan to be very, very aggressive on that firm turf at Del Mar and try to run them off their feet, a la Highland Reel. And I wanted to be sure to point that out and remember that. Measured Time is going to be hard to beat in this country if he's going to run races like he did last time.
And with Appleby having the string here now and being, you're going to see him, a horse who's proven that he likes these conditions. We're going to be seeing him again. Ended up going 1-2 there with the Euros with Measure Time and Nation's Pride. We just got about a minute left, JK. Any further races you wanted to address from this racing festival? God knows we could do more time on it, but we're short on it at the moment.
No, it's fine. I want to point out General Partner, who let's not forget, he was a horse that was very part of that, best juvenile we've seen in a long time with Muth, Timberlake, him, Fierceness. And he came back and was impressive in that race on opening race on Saturday. Ways and Means was sensational. I think she got a big number when she came back. I don't know what it was. It was on Friday.
It was early Friday. It could have been early
Friday. Yeah, early Friday. So all his Marshall and Clay's horse, Almost Gone Rocket, was outstanding. And she is going to probably be in the test with a horse like Ways and Means. That race is looking like it's going to be an absolute war. And so, look, these big days provide big undercard opportunities to find some really cool horses that can go on and do cool stuff as well.
That was going to be my close. You stole my thunder. I was going to give credit to Clay Sanders and that filly, who absolutely ran a huge race on Thursday. That one came back as a 99 Beyer speed figure. They briefly, I noticed, posted it as a 93, or at least I think I saw that it was at first posted as a 93, ended up upgrading it all the way to the 99. She's going to fit in very, very well in that test stakes, and getting a chance to hang out with Clay and Marshall and some other members of the 10 Strike team. That was definitely amongst the high points for me. I am struggling to find Ways and Means figure, Jonathan, but I feel like we can't.
No, we're going to find it. I'm gonna find it right here. Timeform US has a nice, easy way to kind of get from race to race. I think it was the 6th or the 7th. That was Money's Gold was the 7th.
No, it was on Thursday.
It was,
and it was a 104 Beyer speed figure that she ran. So, boy, we have some fast horses who are going to be pointed to that race.
Well, she messed me up a little bit because I think I said that she must have ran later because Almost Gone Rocket ran, and I said, "Oh, I think we just saw the favorite for the test."
Not so fast. Not so fast. But, I mean, hey, I don't think as good as Almost Gone Rocket looked, you're not going to be shying away from anybody. But that is a monster number from Ways and Means. But yeah, congrats to all connections. Nice to see Ways and Means, who looked like such a superstar, come back and basically justify that opinion that we all had after the first race. Great stuff. Closing thought from you, JK.
Rajiv had a good line about Almost Gone Rocket on the show. He said they need to drop the almost because she was definitely gone.
That's very good. That was great having him, by the way, as part of our pre-coverage on the YouTube channel. If you missed that, folks, and you're a podcast person hearing this, we do plenty of YouTube exclusive stuff. So go onto that YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Get us up to that $10,000 number, $10,000, just 10,000 number, no dollars about it. As JK pointed out, if everybody watching the video just went and did it, we'd be at 20,000 in no time. So let's help us out. We appreciate it. Click the notification bell so you don't miss any of that YouTube exclusive content. We're going to be back with more show if you're listening on the podcast side. And if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to see you very soon.